guys, welcome back to my channel. So we did some major fish revamping over the weekend and I thought I'd give you a checkup. As you can see right over my shoulder here, there's something new in the 75 because I broke down the grow out tank for the baby Corys. And let me flip you around and we'll get right to that. So here's the 75 tank. As you can see, sorry, trying to get used to a new tech here. I moved all of the baby Corys into the tank so you can see the little guys swimming around. So, I mean, they are considerably smaller than the previous batch, but they are doing great in the tank. So they're all in there now. They had a breeding extravaganza over the weekend. So instead of putting off the re-aquascaped on the 5-gallon that I've been wanting to do, I just put the new eggs in this breeding net. Of course, you can see all the snails like hanging out between it and the wall. Let's see from the top. So these are the floating plants that had been in the 5-gallon and the catappa leaves. And I put this shell in there. It's just something I pulled out of this tank so I can throw food on it. And there's a little air stone in here just to keep the water inside moving, but it does get quite a bit of water movement from the power head that's right on the other side of it. So the next batch of Corys will be raised in there. We'll see how that goes. But I am, sorry, I just got this new gimbal and I'm just trying to figure out how it works. I mean, it does make a nice smooth picture, but it is also kind of hard to operate. It has a joystick. So as you can see, I did some revamping in this tank as well. I guess one of the plants has been uprooted by the plecos, which is not uncommon, but I have a whole pot of crypts in the back here, and I repotted them into a bigger pot, and then a few of them, they'll send off shoots. Like they were literally overgrowing the pot. So repotted them, and then the ones that had shot off I put in other places, so I'm just gonna have to grab this one and put it back down. I think I put it down in the front. Because here's a crypt growing out of the middle of nowhere. So you might have seen I posted on, it's gonna be hard to see them. I posted on the aquarium support group a couple of my Anubias, really just this one plant in the back. It has a couple leaves that are coming in really light, and we figured out that it's an iron deficiency, so I have iron ordered and on the way. So that tank just got a little updating, but mostly just fish moved into it. And that maintenance over here on the 55. Got a haircut, so trimmed down some pretty much plants just like across, but really it wasn't so much trimming, although the guppy grass got a lot of trimming. It was removal of duckweed. They haven't had breakfast yet, so they're hoping this new contraption is going to bring them food. But this whole top was completely covered in duckweed, and you can still see it quite a bit over there. But I mean, it was a thick layer. When duckweed's growing on duckweed that's growing on duckweed, you know, it gets to the point that you can't see the fish anymore. So these guys just got their tanks cleaned and filters cleaned, and then a lot of manual removal of algae that was growing in here. This tank, ever since I got it, had a algae issue. So I've been trying to work on that slowly but surely. So they're doing well. I'm thinking of ordering some sort of Cypachromis, so there's a little bit more top action, although these guys do utilize their whole tank volume. It'd just be nice to have more than one kind of fish in there. You know, so it's the one tank that I didn't necessarily set up how I wanted it, because they were gift fish. And this tank got, the 40-gallon multifasciatus tank got a haircut as well. So all the plants got trimmed way down, and they'll be growing back up in no time at all. Did not algae scrape the front of the glass, so it's a little algae-y there, but you can see the Maltese are doing well. Their shells look great. The Julie Chromis in the back are hanging out in the rockwork. And I have one lone Cyprichromis female, so I would like to get more of them so that she has a school of her own. But again, this tank's doing well. It just got, you know, standard maintenance, water change, plant trims, filter maintenance, etc. So really the big change came, sorry, looking at the floor, on the counter. Because when in doubt, set up more tanks, right? So we'll get to that one in a second. So the 10-gallon Cory tank, the ones, my first batch of Corys, and then I have my 2 Rainbow Fry in here. They got their water changed. I got just some trimming on some of the plants. So one thing I did was, you see these 2 little pots in the back here. I took this dwarf Sagittarius and I pulled it all apart. It was just still in the original little plastic tub with rock wool. I pulled all the little individual plants out and I planted them in the fluorite substrate. So hopefully they'll be happy and start growing a little better. I was getting a little bit of blackbeard algae in this, so the sage and the Windalata Java fern were the biggest ones. So I took them out and I sprayed them with H2O2 and let them sit for a few minutes and then put them back in, also removing any of the really badly infected leaves. But everything else was doing good. Just moved some stuff around. And I took some of the plants out of this tank to move to this tank. I need to zoom. I guess I don't really, it's more zoomed out in than I'm used to. So this was where I had the baby Corys, and most of them got moved. Some are still in here, so there's you know, a half dozen or so of the littlest Corys in here. But as you can tell, it got a complete revamp. So we have the this sword here and its little baby sword. Those came out of the 10-gallon. Then there was a pot of these crypts. I'm not sure if these are parva or there's so many crypts that look similar to that. And they were also in a pot in the 10-gallon, so I took them out and I pulled them apart, and so you can see there's a ton of them scattered throughout. There's a wee bit of Java fern down in this corner, just because, you know, why not? So I put that in there. This is a red crypt from the 75. There's several of them in there as well. I have duckweed, evil duckweed. It's to die. I have some Anubias Nana Petite that I have a ton of in the 75, so I pulled some of those out. I want them to grow. I want them to attach to the driftwood. Couple stem plants. These are just little trimmings from the 40-gallon. They were plants that were floating in here before. These little cardinal stem plants, they're trimmings from one that was just floating in this tank, and I trimmed and put those in. You can see I have a healthy snail population. There's a Cory in the back there. Nice clutch of snail eggs. I wish I could tell the pond snail eggs from the ram's horn snail eggs. I'm just not sure what the difference. But as you can see, this is maybe not the final landscape on this. I was actually surprised. So this is the Tropica soil I got, and I got one little 5 pound, or not 5 pound, one little bag, and I put about half of it in here, and I thought it would be easier to plant, but it's very lightweight, so the plants, you know, don't always stay as well as I'd like them, but they're doing well. Nobody's disturbing them. That's the nice thing about this. There's no plecos in here to dig stuff up, so everything's doing well. And back there, I got a couple pieces of door sage in here, so really it'll be like what I decide how I like to grow it out. Things will be pulled in, pulled out. I really want to get some carpeting plants, so like maybe some Monte Carlo or something, but the aquarium co-op's been out for a couple weeks. And then as an experiment, I really liked, and get back far enough, I really liked putting these pieces of driftwood, they go into the tank, but they're mostly on top of the tank. And I like that because I would like to get some nano fish, or I got some shrimp ordered that'll eventually go in this tank. And my idea with it is that we need as much water volume and more wood in the tank, less water volume we have in there. So one thing I'm trying is I just took a little cutting of the Java moss, or whatever kind of moss it is, from the 10 gallon next door, and I put it on the wood here, and it seems to be staying damp. Some of it's drying out in the back, but this bottom part leads up. So it's staying damp, and it'd be cool if it actually kind of went along the wood, or if it will. May not be wet enough, but you know, like if I could get it to grow kind of at the top, that would be cool. Because I know a lot of these plants grow submerged and immersed, so it's like, why not take advantage of that? Another piece of the evil duckweed. Now the problem with duckweed, you get it in one tank, you get it in all of them. I didn't have it until I got the 55, and now every tank has it. And then oh wait, I have this tank sitting in my backyard. I might as well set it up tank. This is actually going to be a holding tank for some new fish that are going to come in, need quarantine. Of course, you get fish in, they're very tiny, so a 5 gallon is fine. So one thing about evidently the heat of Las Vegas is that if you sit a tank out in the sun for a few months, the rim will crack off. So it's now rimless on the bottom, and you can see that the rim cracked in the back there. It doesn't affect the glass at all. It's just that the plastic was warping in the heat. So it does need a little scraping. It was kind of had some algae when I dried it out and put it away during the move. So this is going to be mostly a quarantine tank. You can see it has just a little cage light on it. It has a compact fluorescent in there, daylight balanced. And when I was ordering, so I talked to or emailed Aquarium Co-op about lighting for this tank, because it's basically a 10 gallon footprint, but it's half the height. So there was like, I put a stingray on it, which is what I have next door. Back up here. So, so I have a stingray on the 10 gallon over here, and if I put that on there, it would just be way too bright. And I was also worried that it would not flood the area enough, because of, like, if you put it right over it, it would distance. So I had the clip-on stingray, but it wasn't enough light, and that's what I'd been using for the baby Corys. And so I was wondering, should I get the Planet Plus clip-on? And we were worried that would be too much light. So the end result was to get a second stingray, and so they're now on both ends, and they're kind of overlapping. So one's a little farther forward, one's farther back, and they're doing a really nice job lighting this tank. So that seems to have worked out, and it doesn't look bad at all. So this one, unfortunately, has the chicken coop light on it. The driftwood is still getting wet. It's just extra driftwood that I had laying around. So it's not how I originally wanted it set up, because I escaped it and then I was like, okay, and then I added water and they floated. So that's gonna take a little bit of time to that, because that piece should be on top of that piece. It's interesting though that they both have a very distinctively different color. And then with my order from Aquarium Co-op with the new light and a bunch of food, I also got some new plants, because, you know, I've got to own every variety of Anubias there is, evidently. So I got the round leaf Anubias, which I'm interested to play with. And then I also got these tiger lotuses, because I have the dwarf aquarium lilies, but I really like the pattern and leaf structure on these aquarium lotuses. So these will probably eventually end up in the 75, but they're just in here quarantine. Also, you know, they came from a cycled aquarium. I'm putting them in here. They're going to help kickstart this cycle on this. When setting this up, I pulled the little corner sponge filter from the 5-gallon. So that is a cycled filter. The bio rings in this corner filter over here are cycled. Currently there's actually nothing in here, it's just water movement. But I do have the biomedia and the sponge cycled in another tank. I'm not really worried that this tank isn't going to be cycled and ready when I need it. It's just that this Tropica emits ammonia. So this tank is sort of cycling based on the media or the substrate. But those plants will just help because they're, you know, they've got beneficial bacteria on them as well. And I do have to say, Aquarium Co-op does an amazing job with packing their plants. You know, they wrap them in like wet paper towel and they bag them, and they came, all of them look amazing. They came really, really nice. So that's the little 5-gallon there. Would like to get a better light for it, although that was the light that was on it when it was at my old house in Yakima. Because it had the hang on the back, like huge thing from the 10-gallon on this 5-gallon. And I kind of combined those two tanks when I moved. So it's just getting set back up really. So some of this countertop, see the nitty gritty side of it, you know, you're gonna have to ignore the dirty dishes in the kitchen here. But I've got this tank running from a gang valve and a power strip here. And then the light, all the lights go to a timer on a power strip back here. So they all go into this power strip, and then that power strip plugs into a timer back there. And then these two tanks are all powered off of this gang valve and the 40-gallon quiet filter, and that one's a 10 quiet filter. So it has a smaller air pump on it, but it's only running one tank. This one has these two have the bigger air pump, and they're running that. And so you can actually see this is the bio ceramic media for that little 5-gallon and the sponge behind it. So they are in here, and they've been in there for a good month. So I could throw them into that filter anytime, but the fact is I'm not really worried about filtering that right now. I'm more worried about just having water movement. So the hang on the back is really just utilizing water movement. I mean, the two filters in there are probably plenty. I mean, you might say like, well, why don't you just get a small power head? But I have that, so I might as well. And I can put more filter in it. So once I put fish in there, quarantine fish, I usually like to have excess filtration on because I'm putting meds in there. So if it does kill off any bacteria, it's there. And then if you know, you're more heavily stocked maybe than you usually would be, so you have the extra filtration to help. So that's the main fish room update. Everything's gotten water changes and set up and redone. I'm really excited about some new fish that I have not fish, new critters that I have ordered, and some new fish that are in the works to get. So the last of my order from Aquarium Co-op, let's see if I can do this, was fluval bug bites. Nobody's giving me this shit for free. I got some new ones, some bottom feeder granules, which I was interested to see the size of those for the baby Cory fry. The Pleco formula, the Corys really like. The Tropica bug bites, everybody really likes. And then I got some Repashy, got Soylent Green, and some bottom scrapers. So again, for the Corys. And I have these really nifty silicone trays that I ordered for making, they're not very thick. They make these little triangles for cooking up some Repashy. So I got some different kinds to make up, and that way I can have Repashy in the freezer and ready to go. And of course, my new toy that cost a bazillion dollars, which I'm still trying to figure out how to use, which is why this video is a little better but worse than normal. So anyway, 20-minute video, and I will catch you guys all up later. Bye.